Welcome back to the channel. The markets have been extremely hot and we all know what happens at the end of the heat. People get burnt. Let's not fall into that trap and take a look at how we can avoid getting burnt, especially in these super hot times, even if that means coming early. All right, enough with the dad jokes. Like, subscribe, do those good things down below, helps out the channel. And of course, if you want to test out your trading skills and not just talk about it on Twitter, check out Bitworld Series of trading, link in the top of the video description. Up to $4,450 of sign-up bonuses. It's the highest sign-up bonuses you can get out there. Otherwise, you're left with $3,000 there using the link from the exchange. So check out the link in the top of the video description, test yourself out, but of course it's only for experienced traders. Use stops. The amount of times I hear people not using stops is crazy, and of course have a plan. Today's video, people getting burnt. Yes, there are good times to be had, but we want to just keep trading in between the markets in terms of, are we going long, are we going short, or what is the market telling us if you're not trading? If you want to use this as the news before the news, that's what we use the charts for. So Bitcoin has been performing extremely well. We've obviously been following this pretty damn well. The whole idea is just to put the probabilities on our side rather than saying the market must do this, because the market doesn't have to listen to us. It just does what it does, and we just have to read what it's telling us. That's our only job here. So we don't need to say that it has to go to 25 grand or 30 grand or whatever it is, 100 grand. Those people always get burnt. And the same deal to the downside. You know, I popped this up on Twitter this morning. The Bitcoin bears will eventually get slaughtered just like the Bitcoin bulls were slaughtered at the top. The aim of trading and investing is to be fluid in your views and stay with the trend as long as possible, because that's how you're going to make the most money. And of course, you have to eventually sell, and that's the idea about today's video, even if we're selling before their absolute peak. Because at the end of the day, you're just trying to make profits. You don't need to be a hero and say, I bought the bottom, sold the top. You know, leave that to the influencers, okay? There are no prizes awarded for most loyal to a community. Now, I bring that up because ADA always, you know, I mean, this was through the bull market. The community has been so loyal to this project, but there are no prizes awarded for yelling out ADA as much as possible, as many times as possible online. You might think that the price will go up more if you yell it a bit more, but everything comes back to cycles. So if the cycle is down, the cycle is down. So that's my part of the rant, looking at cryptocurrencies and not getting too caught up in the position, getting married to the cryptos that we've bought, to try and divorce ourselves from those emotions and those ideas, especially when it comes to things like ADA or Solana or Doge or anything else that is quite maximalist in nature. So they have had some gains in recent times. So I wanted to bring ADA up because we're starting to see some signals of another little piece to the end of the short-term move. Just little hints. Of course, we can keep going on, and we've talked about that, but it's just little hints here. And the main thing is this: investors cycling through weak horses. Is this the end of the line? If you haven't been here for a cycle and you've seen altcoin seasons and all that sort of stuff, we tend to go from the major cryptos, the blue chip, into the better cryptocurrencies, you know, I guess you could call them blue chips, but then they start to flow on to other crappier projects and stuff that really has nothing going for it, and those things start to pump. And then the next things that pump are the projects that are basically dead and had died, but just come back out of nowhere. The reason for this is that investors are willing to take bets on riskier assets because they believe that the gains have already been made in something like Bitcoin or ETH, and it's like, all right, let's start to shuffle our profits down into the next cryptos and the next ones, which ones haven't pumped yet, and try to pump those prices up. Because at the end of the day, of course, it's manipulation. We can scream and cry about it. It's not going to change anything. All markets are manipulated. Let's get over it and just look at what people are actually doing in the market to try and jump on board when they are manipulating the market. Easiest way to do it rather than getting upset about it happening. So that's why I use the charts to tell us when those things are happening, where the price is going. So with that in mind, they're the two things that we're looking at today. Is the trend coming to an end? Should we be taking some profits? These are some of the signals that I'm looking at, and how can we deal with it? Okay, so Bitcoin yesterday did drop back to that level of 21,700, and then it's since pumped from that point. The beauty about following a trend is that there hasn't been any confirmation that the trend has reversed, but we can start to see signals where the market is starting to slow, even if it is a little bit for a period of time before it moves again. And so you can think, like I do, and say, well, the market is stalling here. It's starting to take its time, and it looks like some sellers are coming in. You could see that yesterday when the market did drop. Then we sort of bounced again, and then we started to stall again. And we're just looking for signals from the smart money to say, well, we want to keep the market going up. We haven't broken any of the support levels yet and fallen back down. That's the signals that we're looking for. The major support levels weren't broken. You can see the higher lows continue to come in. You can see the major support there, the 21,700 that we've had on the chart for weeks now. That has held again because you can see it touched, reversed, touched and reversed. So they don't want to break that down yet. And it looks like we're heading towards that next major target of 24,600. So the battle zone was conquered. You could see it happening yesterday, battle between the 21.7 and then the top of that range, exactly like we looked at. And you can see it as well when you just open up a chart and start to look to the left and look for where those support and resistance levels were in the past. So if we bring this up just a little bit, you can see that the tops of Bitcoin, 22.7, were clearly the tops back in June 14 and also 16th. And now that we've overcome that, at least for the short term, it looks like Bitcoin wants to start to tackle the next zone. It's going to the next war, and the war is 24.5 to about $25,000. So with that in mind, we need to see, well, is this starting to run out in terms of gains for cryptos? So we have a potentially a little bit left in the tank for Bitcoin, which means maybe there's a little bit left in the tank for cryptos, but it never hurts to take any profits. It doesn't hurt to take any profits, and it doesn't mean you have to sell everything, just a little bit at a time. All right, so total cryptocurrency market cap, target 1 achieved. I've swapped these two around. We're looking at 3, being this is my third target. I know you'd probably go 1, 2, 3, but I didn't think that this would be too strong if the market can actually get to 460 billion, and that's being the overall market cap for cryptocurrencies, to give us signals to let us know maybe it's time to take more of those profits out of the cryptos that we're trading. We don't need to sell everything at once. You know, we've heard that time and time again. So 460 billion to about 480 billion. We get through that, you know, the market takes on that battle, wins that war, then I'm looking towards 580 billion as the next target. Okay, so just taking those little bits of profit. Looking at ETH, it looks like it's been having some profit taking. You can see just 4 days ago, we came up, tested 1400, and then there was just that one small day where the market was really trying to decide, are we ready to break through? And from that point, huge volume came in. We always want to see that. It happened. That's tape reading. Now you're able to read the market like the news. You're able to, well, you're going to do it way better than the news because the news doesn't know jack shit. And they'll always get it wrong, and they'll always tell it to us way, way, way too late. Headlines, let's look at those, just get a feel for what's going on in the market. But for now, you can actually start to read the market before the news tells you. You can see the volume coming in. That's what this gray bar is right here, telling us there are a lot more buyers than the previous green days, which were up. People tend to just look at green days, but this tells you how much acceleration is coming into the market, how much gas are they giving to that price to move it up, especially around brick walls. $1,400 was a brick wall. It's a resistance level. Use it as an analogy of a brick wall. Now we've got tons of gas pushing us through that brick wall, and we did it. We got through it. That's why it's important to put these two together. The volume gives you the acceleration of how strong that move could be if you want to understand what's going on in the market. So we push through, and now we've come up to some other brick walls ahead, and we could slow down before we get to that 1700 if in fact we do get there. Maybe we've just run out of gas. That's what we'll start to see in the volume as well. You know, it has dropped off a little bit, but overall yesterday's volume was very high in comparison to the last month. So there's still a lot going on in the market, but for the short term, to me at least, it looks like we've had a short-term stall. Maybe it's just smart money taking some profits on the way up from their positions after they had stacked it earlier in the piece, you know, buying up at these support levels. Then you just start to take profits at each of these resistance zones on the way up. That's how you sort of space out your profits so that you're not a fool and just buying everything at once and selling everything at once. You know, it's staggered in, staggered out, short term, long term. Now I've got ETH BTC. because this, to me, is a nice clean example of what's going on in the market right now. You can see that we've been down for so long, so people are still, or traders, investors, are still a little unsure, is this the final low and are we about to take off, or should we be taking some profits now and just watching to see where this more macro part of the cycle comes in? Meaning, this is a daily chart, so this has been one of the largest moves up, at least we're seeing this on ETH BTC. Are we about to see a rejection at these higher prices, 7.6% ETH BTC, remember, and then a fall back over the next couple of weeks or months? Where does this more macro low come in? Is it going to be higher? If that's the case, then that's going to be their signal, the smart money signal, to say, well, probably time that the market is going to trend up again. But this can happen over the course of weeks and months, which is why I still think we might have a retest of these levels, but that's going to come later. I think that's what my plan is saying at this point in time. So smart money, potentially profit taking in the short term. You can see that because the market's just reversed. This is ETH BTC, of course, getting out of ETH, throwing it back into BTC, taking some of those profits, and just waiting on the sidelines again to say, well, is it time to get back into ETH and take this thing back to 1700 to test, are there any more sellers in the market? Or are we ready to top out here at $1,600 and head back down to see where the buyers come in again? That's the game being played right now, and you can see it happen on Matic as well. That's why I got in the title here, price pumps too much for crypto, one day too early. It doesn't really matter if we were too early taking those profits. So I noted here, sell on the 16th, market pumps a day. Maybe you catch that top and sell on the 18th, but it doesn't really matter because the next day it reversed and you're basically back to where you were on the 16th. So you got to suck it up for 2 days and think, shit, I didn't sell the top. Who gives a shit? The market came back down and it's basically at that price again towards the top on the 16th and the 17th. These are the sort of things I remember coming up against when I was trading Solana in 2021 and selling out of Sol way too early for the peak. But because I was getting in at $25 and $30, it doesn't matter. I was selling at 160. And on a more macro sense, 160 comes out here on the chart, and then it went sideways for a few weeks before it boomed to $250. I know I'm never going to catch the top, and I don't think it should be part of your plan to try and catch a top. It's just stupidity. But then you see months down the track, going from September into December, the price came all the way back to 160, and here we are at $40. And I was being called an absolute moron for selling Solana. There was a lot of people who were married to their community of Solana. This thing's going to $1,000 a sol, etc., etc. Those people all got wrecked because they held the bags, got married to it, and then of course Solana divorced them, lied to them, and basically shat all over their face, especially with the money that they put into the market at those highs. Now I use a lot of those comments out there because this thing gets extremely emotional, and sure, I'm emotional at the time too, but as long as I'm making profits, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, and I hope the same goes for you too. As long as you're making profits in these markets, then it doesn't matter about the individual projects. They'll come and go just like they have done year after year after year. So that's what I'm looking at when it comes to trading. And that last piece of info that I was looking at here, investors willing to bet on riskier assets, is in relation to, in this case, ADA. No hate to ADA holders. I do hold a little tiny bit of ADA. So ADA's up 35%. And if we take a look at ETH over the same period of time, which is a much, much bigger market cap, it is up 62%. So we're starting to see a little bit of that flow through, momentum picking up in some of the smaller projects, which, like we talked about in the intro, when we go through these altcoin seasons, no matter how big or small they are, you start to see the money cycle through in this way, going from the stronger stuff to the weaker stuff, just trying to get anything to pump to try and get those profits into their bags before ETH and Bitcoin come back down to test their highs once again to see if we can hold up and start to accumulate once more. That's what I'm seeing at this point. That's why I think it might be a little bit too late in the sense of crypto trades. Although there can be much higher prices, it might be getting, midway, maybe to the end, I'm not saying it's over, but midway to the end of maybe this run. Of course, we could have a few more days or a couple of weeks, but in terms of the gains, I would be cautious with whatever it is that I'm entering into You can still enter trades, but definitely have some of those stops close by, because now the risk to the downside is getting a lot more than the gain to the upside. And then eventually you could see these things flip, stay with the trend. That's what we're doing here, but just being cautious about our investment and taking the risk off the table when we can. Thanks again. If you're interested in more trading, definitely go and check out my brother's channel, Michael Pizzino here. Gets into the trades really, really well and looks at different strategies, which is currently up about $1,300 looking at this particular strategy here. That's the video I just posted. I'll leave a link to Michael's channel in the top of the video description as well. Of course, Bybit is there, $4,450, and do the likes, subscribes, all those things there. As much as I hate hearing it, it does, I know, help out the channel a lot. So thanks again for your support. I'll see you guys at the next video. Until then, arrivederci.